When you're stressed or anxious, do you touch your face or stroke your head or groom? Have you ever found yourself mindlessly twirling your hair around your finger when you're stressed or deep in thought? This is a pretty common thing that a lot of people do, but when this develops into a compulsive urge to pull out your own hair, leading to bald spots and distress, this is called trichotillomania. Now, trichotillomania, which is also known as hair pulling disorder, is a mental health disorder where you have repetitive urges to pull your own hair. And it's not just the hair on your head. People can pull from their eyebrows, eyelashes, and other body parts. And it's a really interesting compulsive cycle because this condition often triggers a sense of increasing tension before pulling and a sense of relief or pleasure after pulling. Sometimes after pulling out a hair, people have a ritual of like touching the hair or putting it in their mouth or looking at it carefully or examining or biting the follicle. And for some people, they even eat the hair. And this is a compulsive cycle that can be really challenging to break. So I recently interviewed Dr. Michael Tuig, who's an expert on trich. And in this video, I'm going to summarize what I learned about what causes trichotillomania and how it can be treated, both psychologically with habit reversal training and breaking the cycle of giving into urges. And then we'll also cover some of the medication and nutritional treatments that are available for trichotillomania. Everyone, real quick, when I think about treating trauma, stress, and anxiety, one of the first skills that I always want people to know is about how their nervous system works and how to understand both that flight, flight, freeze response and your body's natural calming response, the parasympathetic response. So I have a free course called Grounding Skills for Anxiety. Over 30,000 people have taken this course, and it's got thousands of 5-star ratings, and it teaches you about 15 practical skills to learn to soothe anxiety, stress, and trauma in your nervous system. So if you would like to learn more about how to use grounding skills, how to calm your nervous system, then take a look at the link in the description. And now let's get back to the video. Okay, so to clarify, trichotillomania isn't just a bad habit. The APA classifies it within the group of disorders known as obsessive compulsive and related disorders. So this includes OCD, body dysmorphic disorder, hoarding, skin picking disorder, and other types of BFRBs, which are body-focused repetitive behaviors. And those BFRBs include nail biting, lip biting, cheek chewing, and other forms of these kind of compulsive, habitual body-focused behaviors. For many people, these BFRBs become so severe that people are missing large chunks of hair or chunks of skin, or they, have to work really hard to cover up this picking or pulling with wigs and makeup. The other interesting thing about BFRBs is, and trichotillomania, is that it's often accompanied by these feelings of shame or guilt or feelings of loss of control. And this can impact relationships and work too, because people might start avoiding social situations, or the shame around this might make it hard to talk with your doctor or mental health provider around it. So who does this impact? Around 1% to 2% of American adults and teenagers have trichotillomania, and women present more frequently for treatment, but studies have found that men and women have about the same likelihood of occurrence. It's just that women may experience more cultural pressure to seek treatment. So, okay, let's talk about what causes trichotillomania or skin picking. I think there are a lot of theories about why people do this. I watched one Psych2Go video that basically said, you pull your hair out to comfort yourself because you were neglected or alone as a child, and you developed this habit of comforting yourself. Now, I think this is an oversimplification. It isn't evidence-backed, but it probably does resonate with some people. And then I've got my own unscientific hunch that, skin picking and hair pulling, that it's related to our primitive need to groom, to remove insects or infection or irritants, and that this is also a social behavior. And, personally, I do think it has to do with nervous system regulation. Like there's something inherently soothing about grooming. Not only is it comforting, but it's also social, and both of those can help regulate your nervous system, regulate that stress response. But despite what I think or what you may have heard on the internet, the causes of trichotillomania are quite complex. So let's talk about what the science says. Like many mental health disorders, it's likely a combination of biological, psychological, and environmental factors. Some people might be genetically predisposed to the disorder. It seems to run in families and it correlates. It's, overlaps a little bit with OCD, also with autism and even ADHD. And then the other thing to be aware of is that like big events like trauma or loss can bring out the onset of symptoms. But BFRBs are often a response to regular emotions like stress, boredom, or just like an increasing sense of tension. So what we do know about what causes the disorder is that the behavior is reinforcing. What that means is that for whatever reason, when some people pull out their hair or pick at their skin, they feel a sense of relief or some other relaxing or pleasurable feeling. And so this leads to this cycle of like tension building and then engaging in the behavior and then a sense of relief. And each time someone engages in that behavior, it reinforces that cycle. It's like your brain thinks, ooh, that felt good. I'm going to make my human do that again. So then the pressure to pick or to pull builds up. So in speaking with Dr. Tuig, I learned that there are essentially two ways that people engage in hair pulling or skin picking. There's focused and habitual. Now, focused is when you're like staring in the mirror, you're completely absorbed in searching for that weird hair or thick follicle or pimple or abnormal piece of skin, right? And a lot of times when people are in this focused state, they might lose track of time, or they might think, oh, just one more. And habitual is when you do it without noticing it or thinking about it. So like maybe you're driving in a car and you're like kind of searching through your hair while you drive, or maybe you're sitting on the couch and you're just picking at your face or something like that. Now, according to Dr. Tuig, there's a high overlap between skin picking and hair pulling. They have a similar cycle of tension building and then engaging in that behavior and then a reinforcing feeling afterwards. But I thought this was really interesting. He said that one of the big differences is that with skin picking, there's often a component of perfectionism involved. Like people are trying to get their skin perfect and they're just causing more and more damage by constantly like irritating those sites. Okay, so the good news is that trichotillomania and other BFRBs are treatable. But according to Dr. Tuig, if you find yourself caught in that cycle, it can be pretty hard to find a way out of it on your own. Finding a provider who has experience and skills in treating trich can be really helpful. So how is trichotillomania treated? So one specialized form of CBT that's used in treating trichotillomania is called habit reversal training, or HRT. It's particularly effective as it addresses the compulsive nature of the disorder. So it involves three main steps. The first one is awareness training. The second one is developing a competing response. And the third is building a support system. So in awareness training, you learn to identify situations that could trigger hair pulling. So this could be an emotional state. It could be thought patterns or specific settings or activities. So for example, someone might realize, oh, I engage in hair pulling when I'm sitting on the couch watching a show. Or another person might identify that they pick at their skin in front of a vanity mirror, like that's the location, and they tend to do it after a stressful day at work. And by identifying these triggers, individuals can predict and prepare for moments of increased likelihood or vulnerability to hair pulling. So first you identify when, where, how, what are your triggers, where is this happening, so that you can move on to the next step, which is developing a competing response. So this is an action that interferes with hair pulling, and you can do it to interrupt the behavior when the urge arises. So for example, if a person often pulls their hair while watching a show, they might learn to occupy their hands with a stress ball or crocheting. Or they might sit in a different chair. So like if the couch has like a little armrest that's up high so they can just kind of lean and pull their hair out, they might sit in a different chair where it doesn't have that armrest to make it a little bit harder. Or the other thing you could do is like instead of like feeling your hair with your fingers, you choose a competing response like making a fist. So the key here is to find an action that you can kind of quickly and easily do to combat that habitual behavior of pulling your hair. But it also, is comforting or feels okay to the individual. And then the third step is it can also be really helpful to get support as you try to break this habit. A close friend or a family member might be able to help you remember to break the habit or catch you when you're doing it. And they can also, listen to you and provide support to work through stress in a different or healthier way. Okay, so that's habit reversal training. And the next step of treating trichotillomania is breaking the psychological cycle of acting on urges. So the second big part of treating trichotillomania is learning how to deal with urges. And I think many of us have the faulty belief that if you have an urge, the only way to make it go away is to act on it. I think people would say something like, oh, you've got to scratch that itch or it's just going to get itchier. That if you have an urge, you have to act on it or it's just going to get louder and more unbearable. But this belief is false. So when we feel an urge, like, oh, I want to eat a candy bar or I want to pull out a hair, and we act on that urge, we do feel an initial sense of relief. But in the long run, that reinforces or makes stronger the urge in the long run. So this is called conditioning. So the treatment for this is with acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. So with ACT, you can learn to notice thoughts and feelings as chatter. You can learn to notice an urge, observe it, be present and curious with it, and not have to act on it. And if you keep observing, you'll notice that eventually the urge will subside. So there are some really practical exercises, practical skills you can develop to get better at noticing urges without acting on them. A couple of the cognitive diffusion skills are things like the passengers on a bus exercise or learning leaves on a stream. This is a meditation you can do to learn how to watch your thoughts. Another thing you can do is learning mindfulness. So mindfulness training can help you create some space between your thoughts and urges and your actions. And the more you do this, the more your urges will decrease in the long run. But then even when you do have them, you'll have kind of this new internal belief that says like, oh, I can feel this urge, but I don't have to do anything with it. Okay. The other thing that can be helpful with trich and other disorders is just improving overall mental health. This can increase resilience. So you guys know this stuff, right? Therapy, exercise, nutrition, yoga, meditation, etc., right? And then the other thing I do want to say is some medications have been found to be helpful. SSRIs, which are a type of antidepressants, have been helpful for both OCD and BFRBs. And there's also some evidence that supplements like inositol and N-acetylcysteine, I don't know how to pronounce that, NAC, can be helpful for some people with BFRBs. So my brother, who's a doctor, he saw a client who had severe skin picking, and the dermatologist he was working with recommended trying NAC, and it really helped, like in a few weeks. So there are some nutritional treatments out there that for some people are effective, obviously not for everyone. When it comes down to it, shame and a lack of awareness are some of the biggest barriers to getting good treatment for trich and BFRBs. So I hope this video helps. If you or someone you know has trichotillomania, with the right knowledge and professional help and support, it can be possible to break the cycle of BFRBs. And if you want to hear the full interview with Dr. Tuig, you can listen to it on my podcast. And Dr. Tuig also has a book and a training for clinicians, and he sees clients in Utah. So he was wonderful to talk with, and I'm really grateful he shared his expertise with me. So if you'd like to learn more about any of those things, check it out. Links are in the description. Thank you all so much for being here, and take care.